Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review of Avengers issue 50. And this is a pretty big issue because it's also the 750th issue of the Avengers. And as you can see, this one's pretty big, and at like $9.99, it's got a lot in here. I mean, if something came at you, you'd stun it a little bit, so wouldn't outright kill it. But I do like the overall story tying together that we've gotten in this issue. It doesn't do the whole milestone thing of like going back and seeing certain things that like the Avengers have done throughout their lives. Or like throughout the course of like the team and its formation. It's mainly focusing on like the million BC Avengers tying together with Mephisto's plans and like everything together to get us into the next phase of Jason Aaron's story with the next pretty big threat for the Avengers to face. So the issue starts, it's divided up into several different chapters and actually has a single kind of story at the end as well. So you get a lot in here. It starts off showing that the Orb has pretty much been like watching this family, this husband and wife kind of combo. And he's like, listen, I know where this is going to end, so I'm going to have you guys kill each other now because everything's going to go like crazy. And it's like, okay, let's kind of see what's going on here. Then we see that Kazar has been asked to go through time with the Celestial Knife. That he's able to kind of like see what's going on with the million BC Avengers by T'Challa. And he's like, all right, let's kind of see what's going on here. And he's mucking around because Kid Thanos is there. And he's like, I'm going to correct the Celestial's mistake. Aha! And he's kind of got things that are Thanos bots, but they kind of remind me a lot of like Doom bots. I'm like, oh, okay, I've not really seen Thanos doing this kind of stuff before, but granted, we are now going into a more multiversal kind of conflict because you kind of see the same kind of things recycled over and over again with certain Avengers story with certain kind of villains. I get, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's kind of cool to see what different kind of writers will do. This one's kind of upping the ante with doing all this kind of like multiversal kind of stuff, being like, all right, we're Dragon Balling this motherfucker. So he's dealing with that, but of course the million BC Avengers pop up and they're like, yeah, don't worry, Kazar, we got this. He's like, cool, Avengers assemble. Then we get to pretty much getting the end of the World War She-Hulk kind of thing. And this was different. I didn't expect it to kind of play out like this, but it made the most sense to pretty much get She-Hulk back to her certain kind of status quo. So that's all been done. Let's see. Is that how it kind of works? There's a lot of different kind of things going around in this issue, but we get that kind of done. We see She-Hulk has absorbed 68 megatons of gamma bomb. Ghost Rider's been able to get and make sure that Gorilla Man's still alive. He's like, yeah, what the hell are we going to be doing? And then they're trying to figure out what to go on and do to kind of help Jen. And we see that she's also kind of in her mind, and we get the whole thing with her talking with the dead Celestial to kind of get her ready for this thing. They pretty much get her into Avengers Mountain. They're like, what do we do? It's down and offline. She goes to a certain chamber, unleashes all the gamma energy, and it burns out the infection that was put into Avengers Mountain, and She-Hulk is now back to her usual kind of status quo thing, as we see. Let's see. Yeah, she kind of like blasts all that gamma energy that she was like holding in, and then we see that where she's talking to like the Supreme Court of the Russian Federation. Crimson Dynamo was pretty much like, yeah, She-Hulk was pretty much just a scapegoat. Red Widow was the one that you need to like hit for, and we see that she's back to her status quo kind of self and doing her lawyering, which I kind of like because, of course, when She-Hulk was made, there you get the whole kind of thing of, oh, they're just making a woman version of another hero. But over the years, she's really gotten into her own kind of stuff. Like, granted, she can throw down, like, any of the other kind of Hulks, but her lawyering aspect has always been something that I really have liked about her character because it's really different. And seeing her practicing like superhero law and having to fight in a more kind of cerebral way, sometimes having to figure out how to take on legal challenges like this of her clearing her name and making sure that she's not a wanted criminal or anything by Russia is pretty cool. And seeing her back to that kind of route is really kind of helpful. So she kind of deals with that, and then we kind of see how the rest of the Avengers team is trying to kind of figure out where to go from here, because Jen wants to take some time off to understandably deal with the conditioning and just kind of like collect herself. Blade, of course, is dealing with the vampire situation that he's now the sheriff of. So it's cool to see the Avengers trying to figure out what to kind of do. Like, what's going on with Thor? I don't know. Well, he took out like the two gods on the Winter Guards team, and Tony is not looking forward to going to Asgard because he says it even tastes like beer breathing in the air, and I kind of get that, but they're trying to figure out all these different kind of things. They're figuring out why they're kind of, even though they started with the like most powerful lineup of the Avengers that they've had, why they continue to be getting weaker. It's like we kind of see the threads of what's kind of going on throughout this kind of story as all the rest of the things are kind of being set up. We see that Jen goes down to Atlantis to talk to Namor and figure out what's going on there, and he's like, I've been doing all this stuff, and if you guys hadn't done what you did, all of my people would be dead. And why would the Avengers do that? And he's like, me even asking that question proves that I really wasn't worthy to be the king, and that it's better that his people are now scattered doing their own kind of thing. And that he's like, hey, Jen, if you have anything that you want me to do, just ask. And then she's like, all right, cool. And we see later on that he's pretty much sent in to like help the Avengers. We also then see that Red Widow is trying to condition someone. It's like, what the hell's going on? And talking about his American masters, it's like, okay, that's probably dealing with somebody from the Squadron Supreme. Then we see, let me see here. Yeah. Who we got? Dr. Spectrum. Let me see. Power Princess and Blur, I think. Yes. They are able to like pop in and they're like, yeah, we'll kind of see what's going on here. Now, Power Princess doesn't care for Dr. Spectrum and actually kills him and takes his power prism things. Like, yeah, you don't know what power is. And she's trying to, like, Red Widow's trying to recondition Hyperion and everything. It's like, you know what? Keep doing what you're doing. And it's like, okay. Ever since everything going on with the world being changed to have them in favor, it's kind of like, all right, we'll see kind of what's going on with them. Because they are very kind of sadistic here and just look kind of messed up. It's like, all right, what are they kind of going to be doing here? We don't know what their kind of goals are because Blur's like, yeah, let me kill her. We also had a point where we had seen that the Million BC Avengers were like sending off Kazar to do his thing. We see them doubling down more on Odin and Phoenix pretty much getting together and that setting up Thor's origin. And we see Doom Supreme pretty much talking with Mephisto because Mephisto is trying to like destroy the Age of Heroes, and that Earth 616 is that kind of focal point for like cosmic irritants that like band together and make teams that like fuck up his shit. And it's like, listen, you're the Doom above all. Okay, cool. But maybe if we make a team of our own and we can do this shit, I think we could do that a little bit better. And we see that this Doom is like wearing armor that's like from his dead girlfriend and everything, and this Doom is not fucking around. He's like, I don't give a shit about you, you little bastard. It's really kind of interesting. I really like how it's kind of like shown because these are like, let me see here. These are two very crafty, very clever, very intelligent characters, and seeing them get on this kind of level and be like, okay, usually I like to do my shit. Usually you like to do your shit. However, every time we're trying to do this kind of shit, things kind of get in our way. So how about we just start dismantling this shit across reality? It's like, that's a big step. That's a big plan. You need some shit for that. And Doom's like, alright, fine. Whatever. Cool. But see, Mephisto is pretty much like talking about like all the different kind of like ones that like get put on these teams, and it's really kind of cool to see all these different kind of characters throughout all these kind of different kind of universes and how that works out. And another bit that we get is that Kazar gets like shot out of his time bit and encounters the Iron Inquisitor, which I was like, okay, how is that gonna kind of work out? And that was a pretty interesting take for how they kind of did that. We also get stories of like, we see these death blocks because we were introduced to them, and there's like the Avenger Prime that's sending them out to warn about all this stuff. Jane Foster encounters one's like, I kind of gonna have to deal with this kind of thing, and it's like, all right, cool. Alternative Valkyrie, I'll kind of shoot off. It's like, okay, we're kind of seeing that she'll probably be put onto the Avengers team as well as Namor, because he's gonna have to do what he needs to help to make amends with Jen. We also see that Gorilla Man is ruminating on his life and actually wants to live now, and wants Ursa Major to like wake up. And it was kind of cool. I'm like, it's kind of nice to see that kind of stuff with Gorilla Man, because he has had a weird kind of existence. I mean, killing a gorilla dude and becoming an immortal Gorilla Man. And then he didn't really want this to like happen to Ursa Major, and you can kind of feel that with that page as he's waiting for that. We shift over and we see like the whole kind of spiel of the Iron Inquisitor is Howard Stark from like, let's see, which realm was this? Like Earth 4111. Yes. And he pretty much just got jealous of the future that his kids and others would see, and he would want to see that future, and that jealousy and that entitlement of control and power had him make a deal with Mephisto to, well, get rid of his family, actually kill Tony as we see him. Let's see, that's kind of messed up. We see Tony has just made, like, jet boots, and let's see, there's Tony with the jet boots, and then he just pulls out a gun and just kills his kid, and then becomes, like, Hell's armorer for the Council of Red, so that they can, like, destroy all of reality. So the Iron Inquisitor has pretty much left Kazar in this one place so that way he could be killed and not, like, a part of their whole plans and everything. And he's like, this is just a weird kind of world. That's fine, because there had been, like, time missiles that they used against him. It's like, it makes sense that Howard Stark would be able to use those kind of things. And Galactus is there, and he's like, shit, this is going to be kind of tough. And you're thinking, okay, Kazar has a celestial blade knife that can, like, do time stuff, and it's kind of wonky right now. How's he going to fight Galactus? And we don't really get that much information on that. But we see that it does work out in Kazar's favor. We then shift over and we see that Doom is pretty much trying to make the terms with Mephisto, pretty much leaving Earth 616 for last. And then we're like, fine, we'll do this. I understand what spell you're pretty much going to be casting with your Council of Red, but whatever. And then we start seeing how everything kind of works out. We see all these million BCs are on Earth 818 as they're being taken out by all these various this kind of like masters of evil kind of thing, as we see them beginning off here, and we're like, who the hell are all these people? Let's see. Yeah. And we do get introduced to them, because I'm like, this is kind of weird, because the kind of downside is that we haven't seen these characters very often, so you're kind of like, alright, who's this? It's like, we do get that information, thankfully. Well, we see that Namor pops up at Avengers Mountain, being like, "Hey, listen, I'm here." We see that Robbie is very afraid because earlier in the issues he's like, "Listen, if anything happens to me, guys, can you please take care of my brother?" Because he's been having visions of death and stuff because he's seen all these different Ghost Riders being killed throughout all of the multiverse, and he's talking to T'Challa about that, and T'Challa's like trying to do his best to figure out what's going on. But we then see that Namor pops up, and he's like, "Listen, is there anybody else that I could talk to?" Because he wants to make amends, and he found like a Deathlock himself. And he's like, Omniversal, let me see. Omni-Avenger found. And then freaking teleports Robbie out. And it's like, alright, that's weird. As Valkyrie pops up and be like, "Hey, I got this Deathlock here too." As he's like, I don't know Omni-Avenger's present. And we're like, alright, we'll have to see how this kind of works out. So we had seen that Earth 818 before. And we see that Deathlock has decided to help move Robbie to that one because this evidently is about the time frame that we should be in, and Manhattan's not here. It's like the Age of Heroes is gone, and that Robbie's Spirit of Vengeance is like one of the most powerful, strongest he's ever seen. It's like, alright, this person's going and taking out riders, so let's take this shit out. So we then see that they are attacked by these kind of like Red Skull robot kind of things, I think. Something like that. We don't get too much information on them, but they start fighting them, and it's like, what the fuck's going on? And we see that this. I don't know. We then see that the Masters of Evil kind of pop up. It's like, what the hell's going on? Because we learned that Killmonger is like, I don't want to do this shit, and I want to do it for like my Wakanda and my Asgard and shit like that. And we see that the orb pops up and you're like, "Hey, you guys, how the hell's it going? I kind of want to see what fucked up shit you're going to be doing." Because it's pretty awesome. And they're like, "What the fuck is this thing? Who are you?" Like, Kid Thanos. Like, look at this. He's like, "How the hell does it speak?" I kind of need to cut it open to figure that shit out. It's kind of weird because you'd think it fits within Kid Thanos' kind of wheelhouse. Okay, Thanos is smart and usually thinks about shit. This one is just like, I'm perplexed by how this thing talks. I kind of need to dissect it to figure it out. He's not even really being mean. He's just like, I kind of want to know what's going on here. And we see that it's like Doom Supreme, Dark Phoenix and her pet Berserker, of course, Kid Thanos, King Killmonger, Conqueror of both Wakanda and Asgard, Norman Osborn, the Ghost Goblin with his satchel of exploding skulls. That's freaky, man. That is a bad power combination. And Hair Venom, the Black Skull. Fucking Red Skull mixed with Venom. That is a pretty powerhouse team. Like, we got a freaky, crazy-ass Wolverine. We got a Dark Phoenix. It's crazy shit. The orb is like, I just want to see all the crazy shit you do. And then Doom just fucking tanks him and is like, you got a Watcher's Eye, but that's useless to me, and fuck you, man. And they're like, alright, let's go do this shit. And we see that they are at Earth 616 here, so we don't know exactly if it is the last one that they're at, but they have moved on to this one as part of their plan. No, mainly because the Deathlocks are centralizing around this nexus, and they're like, we gotta fucking stop this shit, so that way we can do this the way we've been planning. So it's interesting that this Prime Avenger, that we will later learn is like a variant of Tony that is Ant-Man, has been sending these Deathlocks to warn everything about what's going on. So it'll be cool to kind of learn about that kind of stuff as well, as we see that the orb is dying and talking about his mother being disappointed and all that. Let's see. The last kind of bit we get is that Kazar, for some odd inexplicable reason, now granted he has to survive, has become a Herald of Galactus to survive that, and has been looking around for planets that have life that aren't intelligent. He's like, yeah, I'm going to get there, get to Avengers Assemble, Avengers Forever. And we then get this kind of cool-ass motherfucking thing where we see Avengers Mountain in all of its kind of glory as we understand how it's kind of laid out. That was a really kind of cool thing. And I'm like, that's pretty fucking awesome. Let's see. Then we get this story like, let's see here. The Two Worthies, where it's just, we see this kid, and we're like, what the hell's going on? and he's afraid because something's chasing him, and we find out it's the Brood, and that Thor has come to help him as well. And it's really kind of cool, just showcasing Thor doing his stuff in Midgard. Now, granted, this is more in like earlier kind of time periods. Now, granted, not wielding the axe that he's usually known for, but wielding Mjolnir, as the Brood is trying to do some shit. He's got to take out a queen's nest to stop it from like overflowing on Midgard. And the kid's like, geez, he's learning that the old gods of Asgard are around, and it's like, what the hell's going on here? And the thing is, Thor had left Mjolnir down, let's see, and was just, see, he kind of drops Mjolnir there, and is like, you know what? I'm going to just beat the shit out of these motherfuckers. As he then proceeds to beat the shit out of these motherfuckers with just his fist and shit. But the kid then has to take on one of the Brood by himself. Tries to utilize Mjolnir, but is unable to lift it as Thor pops up. And he, of course, asks if he's okay. And he's like, yeah, kind of, but I couldn't wield that thing. How can you lift it? It's like, well, you're not worthy. Because whoever holds this hammer, it's by my father. He, like, explains it and everything. He's like, but you think that Thor's being an asshole. He's like, oh, you're a child of Midgard, no god. What's your name, lad? And it's Arthur. And he's like, hey, everyone is worthy of something, of course, alluding to Excalibur. So that was kind of a cool little thing, seeing Thor being the hero that he usually is, dealing with the kind of threats that he does, but also being more mature than like his younger self, being like, oh no, like his younger self probably when he's wielding Mjolnir for the first couple times would be like, oh no, only certain people would be worthy of wielding Mjolnir and all that. Whereas this, he's probably had it for a little bit longer. He's like, no, everybody's worthy of something. And it's really kind of cool for him to say that and actually acknowledge that. That's an important, the worthiness and that kind of aspect, I always like when stories delve into it, and it was just a nice little story at the end. So I do like that all of the story threads that we have had throughout this run have pretty much come together. We've gotten conclusions on things, we've gotten things put to rest before, like the next major arc that we've seen tying in with the million BC Avengers, and what we've seen Mephisto been doing, and what we see with like this Masters of Evil kind of thing going on, with this assemblage of Doom Supreme. Now, I kind of wish that they had had a little story that maybe would have run through the history of the Avengers because of this milestone issue, more than the Thor bit at the back. But granted, I really still like the Thor bit because the art is just beautiful and it just really captures Thor very well. But since this is the 750th issue, you would have thought that they would have done a little bit more with like a story that, I don't know, focused on like really cool, like never before seen Avengers stories or whatnot, or things like that, because I like it when milestone issues kind of do that kind of thing, for like anniversaries and all that. So that's my only kind of criticism. I enjoyed the artwork. I liked how we worked through different stories, getting even new characters set up like the Iron Inquisitor, and seeing more of this multiversal anti-Avengers kind of team as they're going around killing all of these million BC Avengers and stopping the Age of Heroes to have Mephisto's plan. So I'm glad that we see more movement on this front, and I want to understand more what Mephisto's ultimate endgame goal is. So those are my opinions on the issue. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.